And then after John gives his recap, we're going to have Reverend Dr. Jim Cobbin, and your cohort. I think, what is his name? I had it written down, but I can't read my own writing.
Gabe will be on the later session today, but he's handing out ashes at noon today.
Okay, all right, great. Well, we're glad you're here. So we'll be looking at First Baptist Church of Middletown, which is a nonprofit organization, but the principles of social media that apply to nonprofit organizations are similar to for-profit organizations. So we're looking forward to learning about your organization, Dr. Cobbin, and also trying to give you some feedback on what you're doing. I would like to, just to start us for about 2 minutes, I found a really interesting article. If Laura, could you put that up for us to look at? And we'll send you this article or a link to this article if you'd like us to. I didn't want to just send this out arbitrarily without getting your permission first. This is 31 things that you should know about social media or e-commerce buying. And I don't know if it's coming up, but.
Hold a minute. Hold on just a second.
Okay.
I'm having a couple little slow moments on the computer.
I understand. I can identify completely.
Well,
Randy,
all right.
Good to have you with us today. Who else?
We also have, just FYI, Tyra Anderson, who rejoined the chamber. She is now with Stockton Mortgage, who previously she was with Money Mailer. And so we're happy to have her back as a new chamber member.
Thank you, Laura.
Yes, welcome, Tyra.
Thank you.
Back. Well, Laura, what we'll do is when you get that article, we can maybe do it at the end of this session so we don't waste any time. But John, would you like to give us a little recap on what you all do and what happened last session when we were together?
So John Moore, Internetic. So last session, remember we have the videos actually up on the Chamber website as well. So we had a little bit over my group talking about SEO, AdWords, and how to make your webpage more responsive to people being able to view it. That's kind of a big thing these days. Is Google is the place for everything. So it's to make sure that we'll make sure that your advertising and your webpage will behave nicely with Google, because it has various ways of ranking where you show up on their list. So you'll make sure that you show up as close to the top as possible. Because there's things that are easy to do, some things that aren't easy to do that will kind of help you, because you don't want your things to hold you back when your content is great. So we talked a little bit about that. So I definitely recommend going back over those videos. And something we're trying to do, my group is in the last couple of weeks that we weren't great at SEO, and we've actually taken that on as a kind of a challenge to ourselves on learning it better so we can actually bring that product to you all. So at least this one, for the ones going forward, I'm running a few tools against the websites that kind of help identify these things. So like on this one, when we actually get into the talk, we did a bunch of it does like several hundred tests. It takes a couple hours to run the tool, so there is a bit of time there. Well, we run it through and look at the website, and it helps us find things that we can improve as far as performance, security, and the SEO stuff. So that's it.
Great. Thank you. And John, your company is located, where's your office?
We're in Middletown, so we're across from Great Flood. Those brick buildings, like you have the 4 brick buildings over there where Christian Care is. It's probably the company owner's going to know. Right. Yeah, so across from the Kroger's. We're across 60 from the Kroger's.
Right, okay. And your company specializes in a wide array of internet services, right?
Yeah, we do basically everything except for web page development. That's really the only thing we don't touch. We've done literally everything else. I'm trying to think. I actually tried to think of a list of things we don't do, and it's really hard to think of. Our big thing is support. So desktop support. So like we handle right now we're handling about $70 million in customers in this area. So we've got several hundred across the country we work with. So we do their desktop support, so laptops, workstations. We do server support, so we keep their servers running. I think we're covering about 5 million files is what we're responsible for right now.
Great.
24/7 access, networks. So we have networks all across the country we work with. We handle some cell phones. We don't have any customers that have us do that. But we handle their cell phone fleets. We handle laptop fleets. We are a full, so we basically become your IT company. So we integrate with the companies to become their IT group for people who can't afford to have their own. So it kind of makes sense to outsource to us. We learn how the companies work and how to integrate with them.
Right. Great. Well, it's nice to have such a resource locally. So thank you for the update. Anything else that you want to add, or good? Okay. So Dr. Cobbin, we're so glad you're here. And I had sent in preparation for this meeting a questionnaire to Dr. Cobbin so he could give us some kind of a overview of what First Baptist Church of Middletown, what your social media strategy is. So Dr. Cobbin.
I will confess that I've had more anxiety about this conversation than anything I've had for a long time. I feel like I'm going to the final exam for a class I never took. And so if I'm a little off my game, it's nothing but anxiety. I think social media is one of those things that I know we need to be doing a really great job at, but we're not. And I am thrilled to have this help because I have lately been on a campaign of saying we need to add someone at the staff level who's probably under 40 to do this for us, because all of us are really, as all of you know, under 30 or 40, it comes second nature. But to my generation, it is a struggle. So you want me to pull up, well, maybe just kind of say what's working. We are posting our worship services, a weekly Bible study, and a preschool moment, a children's moment, and a youth moment to YouTube. And that's working well. And we watch those diagnostics. We know how long people are watching. And we've cut down the worship service to probably about 30 to 35 minutes, which has been incredibly popular. And I have added a Thursday night Zoom Bible study just last week. Last week was our first one. So that's how we're reaching our folks who are not able to be present. But it's interesting, we've picked up a congregation of 4 in Corpus Christi. We've got a teenager who watches us weekly in Mississippi and emails us. I don't know what it says about a teenager's life that he's watching a church in Louisville, Kentucky, but we've got people's parents in Charleston, South Carolina, and around the country. So that's been interesting that we all of a sudden have this multinational, international ministry from the World Prayer Center in Middletown, Kentucky. We're a small, very community-minded church before COVID, running 140 in worship. Of course, we're in the shadow of Southeast Christian that does social media like I breathe air. So what we're not doing well, though, is the web page side, the Facebook side, which would be the front door of the church. I think one of the struggles that I have been getting leaders to talk about together for about the last 6 months is that the population of Middletown is getting ready to explode. 893 new housing units going on Aiken Road, 300 new apartment units going up in front of Target, all of the new apartment complexes on Tucker Station, new subdivisions in the freestanding housing going up on Tucker Station. So Middletown the population is getting ready to explode, but all the traditional ways of church reaching out aren't available anymore. We can't go door to door. Ring doorbell put a final nail in that coffin. But the truth is, door to door visiting hasn't been well received for 20 years now. Those days are gone. People assume you're a Jehovah's Witness if you show up on their door. They're about the only ones still doing it. Direct mail, we have had terrible responses to direct mail. We have done it a number of times and gotten 0. So it seems like our two ways of communicating are word of mouth, which is, of course, always the most valuable, but through online media. So do you want me to show our website? What would that be helpful, Warren?
I think so, Jim. If you want to start there, that gives us a.
Hey, somebody else is sharing, so I can't. I don't know who that is. Laura is sharing. It says to me, there we go.
You're on mute too. Laura, you're on mute. Here we go.
All right. I got to get all this other junk out of the way. So our web page is maintained by a couple in the church who don't do anything except what we send to them. They are both IT professionals. He's a speed school professor and she's IT bigwig at Brown-Forman. So we really do very little with the design that's 100% them. It's a little bit frustrating because I can't update anything on the fly. I send it to them. For example, I never look at it because it makes me kind of sick to my stomach. But I noticed this important information was back from June. So obviously I need to fix that. How do I get back? On our front page, these times are not right. I realize I've got to fix that. We're not doing this. What is current, we do keep a Google Calendar and it is 100% current all the time. I don't have any idea how many church members look at it, but if someone were interested in the church, which I think is probably where anybody under the age of 50 would go first if they're interested in looking at the church, they would go first to the calendar, and it is current. Our e-giving portal is there, and it is current. About a third of our contributions come in through the e-giving portal. Amazon Smile, and then this is our YouTube page, and it is current all the time. So you can see, so here was this week's Sunday school lesson taught by one of our teachers, the preschool moment, the children's moment, the youth moment, and last Sunday's worship service. We are recording every Wednesday and we're dropping the Sunday school lesson on Saturday morning and we're dropping the worship service on Sunday morning. And this worship has had 58 views, which is probably not too bad for us. On the cover page is our statement of faith. And if for people who are conversant in Baptistese, these words all mean something. These words right here identify us as a progressive Baptist church. We are not Southern Baptist any longer. And we are, so these words, if this is something you're looking for, these words are very important because they signify that we are with the progressive wing of Baptist life. Our staff pages. Now here is where we made an attempt a year ago to update, but I find it to be very, very cumbersome. Each of the staff have a page here that is connected to Google Pages, and we get a lesson on Google Pages, and it just seems so complicated that none of us do it. It seems hard to keep up with. For example, I think this is one I'm responsible for. And these pictures are from 2018, and I never updated 2019, and we did not have one in 2020. But this is our Middletown Festival stuff. So this is something frustrating. Now, the youth ministry will use Instagram, and I have an Instagram account, but I don't have any idea how it works. They seem to kind of do their own thing with that. We communicate mostly through group text to our membership and by targeted emails. We have a pretty good size church-wide email. Because we're a smaller church, we can do a lot of things that large churches can't, which means our weekly email blast, and they come out probably every day or every other day. Someone on the staff is sending out, like today, a reminder that we're doing ashes from noon to 1 and 5:30 to 6:30. And our folks are used to that. That's hospital list, sick at home. It's really kind of like a family newsletter. They're very short. We do send out a monthly letter by newsletter by email, but also it's available by if you want it. And I'm pretty sure that it's here. Yeah, so she hasn't put the February in yet, but our newsletters are here, calendar, services, email contacts, a map, and then we get a lot of questions about renting Celebration Hall building, and that is up to date. So that's our website with all of its foibles. Let me go through your list. So who is managing our social media accounts? Pretty much anybody who wants to. It is not a good system. If I could find the money right now, I would hire a 10, 15 hour a week social media staff person. I told you we had some pages on Facebook, and I'm trying to figure out how to get back to the pages that we have. Here we go. We did go through and eliminate some of our pages about a year ago, and not all of them eliminations went through. That's my personal one there. This is supposed to be the main church page. This is our Middletown Market page. We tried to get rid of these two, and Facebook resisted. I don't know why, but I need to go back. What we want to do really is go down to just one, have one Facebook page, and everybody, all staff can post to that one page. We did eliminate 2 or 3, like the handbells had a page, and so it was kind of confusing. So I need to come back and figure out how to eliminate these 2 and go down to just this one. This one, actually, the lady who runs the Middletown Market, pre-COVID, it was quarterly, and she had a pretty active, you can see her last one was in May, saying that we're canceling. But prior to that, she had a pretty active traffic of people wanting to know what was at the market, and probably we would keep that page. I have no idea what the website platform is. We don't have a plan. We don't really have a defined brand. We do have our youth minister. I've talked to him about if we could, and he's going to be on the call this afternoon. If we could make his position full-time, I'd like him to take over social media and define everything so that everything has a consistent feel across the recordings. We don't do e-commerce except through the e-giving portal. We use our own photos mostly. And I realize that I don't think there's any links to our Facebook pages on our main page. Okay, that's all the talking that I can do because it is pretty limited. Okay, I'm back. Warren, you are muted.
Now I am not muted. Okay, thank you very much, Jim. That was really helpful. So I have a few comments, but I'm going to defer to someone else who may want to go first and offer some helpful suggestions.
And I'm taking notes because any help is appreciated. I'm at that position where I know up here that this is probably the most important outreach we do, but then it always falls to the bottom of the priority list when there's phone calls and there's other things to be done
Right.
first.
Well, I think you're absolutely right that one person has to be in charge and accountable for the entire website and integrate. So that'll be my first comment, but I'll let other people speak before I offer my observations.
This is Randy Frank. I have a friend that does a lot of this kind of branding and websites and social media and Google stuff. But she also teaches you how to use it so that you can find some volunteers in your organization that are willing to learn, and she will do the training and help you. You know, it costs to get it started, but if she could put the system in place for you and tell you what you need where, and then teach people how to do the different social media. I mean, the fact that you have all of those videos already is a good thing. People like videos. It helps with the kids to learn their Sunday school stuff when it's time and that type of thing. But you've got a scattered approach, and you need someone, you're going to have to pay to get someone to organize it. But what she does is she'll teach you how to use the systems and what to do. So you can find some volunteers in your organization that would like to learn it for themselves and may end up doing something for their own businesses, and then they can help you.
Randy, would you send me her contact in the chat, please?
Okay.
And here's my question for you all. Since we are a nonprofit, I have found that there are many wonderful things volunteers can do in church life. But I have been extremely frustrated with volunteers doing social media, because it almost needs to be someone who is in the staff meeting, who is around the office, who has it as a job responsibility. We've had volunteer media people, and it tends to last a week or two, and they lose interest, and they can't stay current. Does anybody else, does that resonate, or am I just picking the wrong people?
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
at Magna, we knew several things that we needed to do, but like you say, they always get, I guess, rendered to the last priority item. And it wasn't until we got somebody full-time that we were able to gain some traction. So I think you're on the right track, but go ahead, Whit, you're on. Are you on? Are you speaking? You're on.
Well, I think so. Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, my computer was having issues, so I called in on the phone, and then my phone, I could hear you all, but you couldn't hear me, and I don't know. So I've been in and out a little bit trying to get it figured out. But one thing that I was actually talking to Warren about earlier, Jim, is that, and it's an issue we have, and we're trying to figure out too, but Facebook and Instagram have these algorithms, and basically the algorithms decide whether or not to show what you're posting to people on Facebook and Instagram. So even though you're posting it, doesn't necessarily mean it's getting seen. And they decide whether or not to show it based on the engagement level, meaning are people commenting, are people liking the post, things like that. So one thing we do is every time I do post something is I send an email out to all of our employees and ask them to go like it, share it, and comment on it. And that's something that you know, if you all have within the church family can do, because, and you've all maybe noticed this with your personal things. Like I posted some holiday pictures of my son a few days ago, and people are still liking it because everybody likes pictures of cute little toddlers. So because it's getting so many likes, it keeps going to the top of everyone's news feed. But I post a business thing or a company thing, and it's, you know, we get like 5 likes. So Instagram and Facebook are basically scanning constantly to decide what content is worth sharing, because what do people seem to like. So the more you can get friends, family, church members to like, comment, and share the church's posts, the more likely you'll be to get in front of a newer audience or different audience than your current one. And sorry, I keep looking at my phone while I'm talking instead of the computer, but that's one thing that I found really within the past week, really kind of learned and figured out how these algorithms work. And it's extremely frustrating, especially if you're spending the time to, you know, create the content and make these posts, and then you worry if anybody ever even sees it. And of course, your other option is to do paid ads. And of course, you all being in Middletown would probably just want to target the Louisville market if you're trying to get new members. But that way guarantees a little more that you get in front of people. But
Well, some of the initiatives you're talking about really are organic, homemade. I mean, they really wouldn't cost anything. And I think as a church with a limited budget, one of the concerns, I don't want to speak for Dr. Cobbin, but one of the concerns might be, well, what's it going to cost me to fix this website, to fix our social media plan, because we have a limited budget, right? Go ahead.
Jim, if you pulled up, like if you were to go in right now, like you were going to log into your website, John and I can probably figure out by looking at it what you're using.
I've actually looked at it already.
And I can, oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah, I've been digging around the background. So unfortunately, this was actually a full custom job. It's not like .NET Nuke or WordPress or anything of those. They actually have custom codes entire page. So that's kind of why it's probably a headache for you to maintain it. Is most like, if you're using like WordPress or another platform like that, you can do what's called Wysiwyg, or what you see is what you get. So you can drag and drop elements in, you can log into it and change things. This is a full custom website. The website itself is actually designed very well. There's some things on there I'm not a huge fan of, but it's a solid site. It's just without knowing how to actually develop code, you would not be able to change these. Like you could change like wording, but you wouldn't be able to add elements or redirect things without knowing how to work with HTML. That would where you needed like an IT group or someone like these people who do know IT stuff. It looks like it's hosted on a service called HostGator. That's a very common service. I think it's out of Utah. It's one of the many web hosters out there. Usually costs a couple dollars a month, something like that. Hosted on Linux. Nothing unique there. That's pretty common. Unfortunately, this one, you wouldn't be able to go in there, and you would have to make this compatible with like a drag and drop interface or a Wysiwyg interface. You'd have to basically redo the whole thing. It's doable.
God, in the long run,
and it's actually not. It's not much of a headache to. I mean, that's what when I came into Magna, John. That's what we were on Wix then. But I decided to just redesign an entire new website because I felt like that would be easier than trying to adjust what was already there, even in drag and drop. So
it's cheaper.
I just created a new website and then transferred, the domain over to it. But
that was my comment.
I mean, if they had somebody that's savvy. No, I mean, I don't know what kind of staff Jim has, but if you had anybody that was a little more technical, they could easily. I mean, I came in here not knowing how to use Wix at all, and it was not. I figured it out. So
we could bring this up. We could bring this up with Gabe at 3:00 today as well, because he's younger and has a little more tech savvy than maybe some of the other people. But John and Whitney, what my thought was, would Dr. Cobbin be better in the long run to get a standard platform that they could work with, keep updated, revise, because it's so dynamic. Things change so fast.
I think so. Yeah.
You've got an outdated website. It's not going to do anybody any good, right?
Yeah, I agree with John. I think you're better to move off of that coding and move to something that you yourself can design and manage. Unless you've got somebody that knows how to write code for website, and honestly, and they make it so easy these days. I don't know that anybody really learns how to do that anymore.
Very rarely, even for my own clients. Like we actually, my group originally did do web development. We stopped doing it because it was so time consuming and money intensive that we just didn't do it, because we actually started going to other groups because with your WordPress, your .NET nukes, and your other stuff, yeah, it's so easy to do now. Once you have your basic theme set up, you can just drag and drop into it. Actually, personally, I like HubSpot for that sort of thing. It's a bit more pricey, so it's harder to for a nonprofit. They probably have a special price for nonprofits, I bet. From my view, it actually comes up to be a bit pricey, but they're like their drag and drop interface is very easy to use, and for most customers now, or for most groups now, it's I would definitely do that for future maintenance, because I mean, thinking of how things go, like what if they move on, or technology changes, or any number of things, you're stuck with a custom code website that you have no way of accessing. And so I would always tell you to make sure that you have not necessarily root, but you have admin access, so you can have that code, so that to make sure that like the domain name is in your company's or your church's name. Make sure that you have access to these things. So as if relationship sours, and you're like, okay, now I don't have access to my own website. That's a bad situation to be in.
How much
Yeah,
does it cost for a new platform? Sorry. Go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry.
Well, you're getting to the root of my issue, is that I have a little bit of a political issue. I have this couple who are very, very generous and want to be helpful. They're very, very bright. They do this stuff every day. And so they are saving money by developing their own platform. But there is absolutely no way that I could know how to make a change to it if something happened to them or happened to the relationship. And they're also very, very conservative financially. Oh, if we can save $15. And so I do have a political issue there that we nonprofits deal with. I don't know if I've never been in the corporate world. Corporate world may have political issues too, but the nonprofit world deals with you have wonderful gifted volunteers, and it's important not to take things away, or not, because we probably wouldn't do it as well as they do. But and they will change anything. I just have to remember to send it to them. So I can't go in on the fly and say, oh crap, that has been there for 3 months, I need to do something. I have to remember to go in and look, and then send them an email to say, put this in its place.
The other comment that I wanted to make too, Dr. Cobbin, is I think it's important, if you do have someone on staff that's managing website, Facebook, somebody who has got their hand on the pulse of what's happening in the church all the time. Because if that's something that they manage, then they're constantly thinking, oh, I need to put that on Facebook, or I need to put that on the website, or just different things like that. That's my only comment that I have to make.
Which is why
Laura, I mean, maybe that's your workaround for the political issue. Maybe you say, look, because we've grown, or we're trying to grow, we've got somebody in-house that's going to do this stuff now. And I mean, we use Wix. I paid for 2 or 3 years in advance. It was a couple $100 for 2 years.
Yeah, hosting
So
is very inexpensive.
I
don't think it's the biggest challenge in content marketing.
I mean, the website is no good if you can't keep it up to date. It's really, and if the people that are doing this for you, Dr. Cobbin, are really limited in their time, I mean, unless they're able to commit, what would you think it would be, 8 or 10 hours a week, updating, to keeping everything updated? Maybe it's not that much. Then it's flawed from the get-go. But
they can't do that kind.
So maybe that's a way to work it. But if we're constrained in this conversation about working with the website that you have, the platform that you have, maybe we should use the remaining 10 or 15 minutes to talk about what you could possibly do to augment your existing website with your custom platform. For example, one thing, just to stimulate conversation, one thing I noticed is, and I was interested by your differentiation between the Cooperative Baptist and the Southern Baptist. That's, I don't want to say it's a selling point for a church. I mean, that's not the right way to put it, but it certainly would appeal, I would think, to younger people that were looking for some place to go. And in my opinion, your website, your front page, your cover page needs to jump, because it's based, that kind of depends on how long people are going to spend on your website. John and Whitney, correct me if I'm wrong, but your first page, your opening page is really critical. And that might be a way for you to capture attention. Go ahead, John.
I'm agreeing. Your first impression is, like I talked when the last meeting. Yeah, you have about 12 seconds to make your first impression, and then they move like that in this hyper connected age. You got 12 seconds, if that. Man, that's at the long end. But people look at page like, oh nope, I'm out.
Right.
So if someone is looking for a new church, let's just take for example, and so what are they going to look for on that front page? Obviously they're looking for something when they go to that page. If you've got a Baptist background, you're looking for the words either Southern Baptist or Cooperative Baptist. Those are very powerful words, only if you've got a Baptist background and you know what they mean. But what are the other things that someone who said, I'm looking for a new church, I've just moved into this area, and so we need to grab their attention on the front, top. What do they want to know?
I think it might be more visual than words. Do you think so, John? I mean, when you get there, for me, think about it. If you're shopping for something, if you go to a website and it just doesn't look as professional as others, you automatically assume it's kind of sketchy and you might never receive what you order. And not that I'm saying yours is, but I think the biggest thing, you catch them visually before you catch them with words.
Yeah, especially if people are shopping around, you have more time with them. I mean, your first impression is important, but if someone is intentionally looking for this sort of thing, like looking for a church, they're probably going to spend more time looking for those indicators. Unfortunately, I don't know a great deal about this market, so I can't really speak a whole lot to it. But yeah, visually, if it looks, there's a lot of places you look at something and go, this site, they might be the best company in the world, it might be the best church, the best organization in the world, but if their website is not great, you're like, I don't know about this. So they
John,
go to someone's house and it's falling down, you're like, I'm thinking it's a little sketchy, but your website at least looks good.
If I can pick on you for just a minute, you're young, you don't know much about church life.
Young.
Let's just say you think, well, maybe I'll look. What would you be looking for? What would you look to see? Oh, that's what a church is supposed to be.
It's a good question. I appreciate the young comment. I'm fairly central progressive, so I'd probably be looking for someone. I'd be looking to see, does it kind of match my worldview? So my first thing is, I'm not irreligious. I'm not religious. I'm kind of in the middle there. So looking, I'd be like, okay, does this kind of do the first? I guess for these days is, does it say anything that like really would turn me off? It'd be like, I don't know how to say that in a way that sounds better. Like if they say like no gays, like, oh, that's no good. That's just your first thing. So I wouldn't see that in a church in Kentucky, I would expect, but I'm from Florida, so more likely. So it kind of would match my worldview. And as someone who doesn't know, like, you're talking about the key phrase like Cooperative Baptist Fellowship, I would not know what that is. But I think somewhere in here I was reading through it. It gave me, at least I got the impression that it tends to be more progressive as far as churches go, I guess.
Jim, you're saying there's a church without walls, right?
Right.
So your communication intent there is to, what do you want people to feel?
Well, we welcome the LGBT community. We affirm women at all levels of service, ordain women. Those are probably the two big ones that come to mind. Some of you younger folks, Whitney, I can see you. If you were shopping, I'm just going to assume that you've gone to a church and say, what would jump out at the page at you? What would you want to know first?
I think what you just said.
Yeah.
I think the first thing when I go on your homepage needs to be what you just said. A church without walls. We accept, because a lot of people don't I think that's something that if you're looking for a church, you may assume that you're not going to be accepted because you fit outside of that normal little block. I mean, I think what you just said should be the first thing people see.
One of the things the stigmas I think that the more conservative Southern Baptist faith, and I only know this because I know something about that church, but in fact, when I was in Louisiana, I was a member of a Southern Baptist church. And I think a couple of stigmas that go with that is that people are really judgmental. They're strictured. They're not open-minded. You know, they sing all the old hymns. They're not singing the new hymns. Whereas the cooperative Baptist, the progressive Baptist like yours, is the antithesis of those things, really. And people are looking, in my opinion, as someone older, but nevertheless talks to young people, especially in today's climate, they're looking for fellowship, for love, for some place where their spirits are going to be lifted. I don't know if you all agree with that, but I don't know if that helps. Anybody have a
When
different...
I would, just looking at the site again, Jim, like I think that first part you get to with the cross in the background and the welcome, that's where, you know, welcome to First Baptist Church of Middletown. Thank you for taking virtual tour. That's where I would update kind of what you just said. And I would probably use a brighter picture.
It's kind of a weird question. Why
It's
is
from-
the welcome white and blue? I'm just kind of curious on that. Like a branding thing?
No, it's not a branding thing. That was a design choice of the designers.
UK
Okay.
fan.
You didn't have a reason and you didn't give them a direction. They just chose to do it.
I did not give them direction, no.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't look bad necessarily. I was just like wondering because I could see it be like welcome. It's like the come to us. Like, okay, I can understand like the call to action thing there, but I was just wondering.
What are the warmer colors, John? Warmer colors. Blue and white are not so warm, right? Like you look at
typically no.
orange. Go ahead.
Yeah, typically no. Like you see in your warmer shades you see in design a lot. I'm not a huge design person, but yeah, your pastels, your reds, your oranges. I see a lot of marketing types use like the orange blue contrasts are very popular.
I just read a thing on colors about a week or so ago, and it was, you know, because some colors are usually associated with calming, and then some are energy, and some are, so like you'll notice a lot of fitness places, you know, like Louisville Athletic Club, they're red, because red is energy and strength, and orange was one that they said was kind of, I don't know, tend to, could go back or forth depending on what it is. Magna, we're purple because of the leadership royalty aspect of it, trying to indicate, you know, the products we have are high quality. But like when you scroll down below that cross, like that part that's got the First Baptist icon and the three colors and it's brighter, like that pops to me
That
more than
pops
the
out.
cross kind of dull and not that it can't be a cross, it just, you get on there and it seems kind of dull and sad. But, and also, of course, your icon too up there is blue, whereas down here at the bottom it's purple, blue, and yellow. So I would think you might want it to match all places. But one thing I do, I mean, if you, like you mentioned earlier, Southeast, I kind of go, like, websites that, companies and products that are competition of ours, I like to go look at their sites and see what are they doing. You know, for us, I would go to Zyrtec or Claritin or something. So, you know, maybe go to Southeast's website and go to some of those other websites and see, okay, what are they doing? Because something they're doing is working.
I will comment that when we redid our website, maybe almost 2 years ago, the one consistent comment that we got was that they loved the colors of the website. That was what everybody noticed first. So I think color does make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
It does. And picture, I mean, ours, before I got here, the pictures looked like you know, it was literally just somebody taking them on a table with their cell phone, and it looked like you took them in your garage and you kind of buying some sketchy, weird products. So I think, you know, pictures looking nice and clear. Of course, most of your alls is going to be people doing things at events, so you got a little bit easier time with it. But yeah, color, I think, makes a huge difference.
Yeah, the other thing
And you
that's,
kind of have the thing too, where you've got people right now that are volunteering their time to do this for you. So you're also a little bit limited in how quickly they turn something around for you that you need. And, you know, because they're basically fitting it into their normal life. So you have a little less control.
the other, you know, Laura, I mean, it's interesting that you would think that a chamber of commerce and a church might have the same features, would you say, or the same aspects that people are looking for. In a chamber of commerce, people are looking for a community, maybe for encouragement, for resources, maybe for networking. Well, the same can be true of a church, and especially when you think about your market segments. For example, if you're going after the younger people who are single, you know, you may want to, if for that market segment, you're going to want to maybe highlight some of the social aspects of your youth program, what they do. So maybe people would see it as, well, this is a way I can maybe meet some friends. Maybe I can find a mate who has similar worldview or, you know, philosophy religious beliefs that I have. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done, but I mean, you need somebody who's a student of the website and of your social media campaign to really get it done right. We were talking about this earlier, that business is so dynamic, and social media is an aspect of business that is hyper dynamic because there are so many changes every week. And once you figure out the 2 or 3, it's impossible to really, I think, follow 10, you know, priorities or 10 initiatives. But if you can figure out 2 or 3 to get done, then it becomes more manageable and palatable, not such a mountain, you know, that seems to like you have to overcome. So I think maybe the most important thing is to find out what 2 or 3 things can we do to work within our present constraints of this customized website, maybe moving towards the ideal, which would be to get a new platform. Those are, you know, that's just some of the way I'm thinking about this, but wouldn't be the first time I was wrong. Anybody
You all are
else?
very helpful. I appreciate it.
Okay,
I'm on my 3rd page of notes so far.
great. Who else has?
Well, and it's hard to, you know, it's definitely, and I can understand where you're in a situation where it's, you know, hard to criticize somebody that's doing something for you out of, you know, a giving stance, but I don't know.
Well, the other thing that we kind of touched on, and maybe we can explore in the last few minutes that we've got, is how to get the participation and cooperation of your members. Because, you know, I love the concept of leverage. And in your congregation, you've got people who can really leverage your social media strategy. If it's outreach or if it's just getting people more involved, maybe you want people to come to more of the events that you have planned, or to become more participated from a volunteer standpoint. Maybe you want people to give more, you know, maybe, and you can't just ask for that, but they have to feel committed. So it's however you get people to help you. That's another whole strategic, like a mini strategic plan, is how do we get people in our congregation more engaged? John, Whitney, anybody else, if you've got any thoughts for Dr. Cobbin along those lines. You've got a calendar. Like you said, you think people look at that, you know, pretty frequently. You send out emails. Is Dr. Cobbin and his staff sending out too many emails? You said one every other day, right, Jim?
Some days they're every day, but we don't ever get response that we send out too many, because I think it's a family-oriented church. People know each other. They like to see Susie Wilson went to the emergency room and she's fine. She's been discharged. That's very meaningful. If I were a member of Southeast with 25,000 members, and I got an email that Susie Wilson went to the ER, I would say, stop sending me spam. But when you've got
Who's Susie?
probably who's Susie? But in our case, by the way, we don't have a Susie Wilson, but in our case, Susie Wilson means something. And I think that's very valuable. I think that is one of the, I will tell you this, during COVID, the conventional wisdom was we would have to shut down and lay off staff. And we have had record giving this year, record in the history of the church, and we have money in the bank for the first time probably in the church's history. Partly because we haven't spent much money. We haven't done camp and all the things that churches traditionally do. But the congregation has stayed very strong through all of this stuff. And I think it's only because of social media. We are connecting by email. The staff also divide up the list, and we call a different segment on the phone every week, just checking up on people. And that has been very valuable.
I went to your church a couple of times. I have a Sunday morning conflict from a work standpoint, so I can't go. You have a 9:30 service right now? Is it 9:30?
No, we're not right now. We're back to the 11, but with people, some of our seniors are now getting the vaccines, and they are saying they're coming back. And so we're probably going to have to add the 9:30 service. And that's because of social distancing. In order to stay separated, we run out of space fairly quickly.
But you have a group of people there that are really caring. You can tell just by the atmosphere when you walk in, and your music is progressive, and it's a small town church. I mean, it's very refreshing. It's the opposite of a huge church. I think when you go, I'm not criticizing either one. I'm just saying it's different.
Yeah, they both have their joys and heartaches.
Yeah,
it is. One of the things that's happened during COVID is they've shown the strength of the church being small because our network was already pretty good, and it's stayed strong.
Right. You mentioned your hospital, people that, talking about your members that go to the hospital. That's a key function of the church, I think, is when people get sick or when they're down and out, when they're out of a job, and we're all going to have problems in our lives, and it's great to have a community of close people that can hold you up. So, I mean, I go ahead. I may be talking too much. I want to make sure I don't dominate too much.
One thing Jim just said that kind of sparked something for me. You mentioned the precautions that have had to be taken during COVID. It's possible that's something people are looking for, on a homepage of a website right now is maybe they're unhappy with their current church because they feel like they're not following the guidelines as much as they would like them to. They're not enforcing masks or, and how are you all doing it? What are you doing to make sure your members stay safe?
Excellent comment. That's why at the very top was this statement, but it was from last June. Things have changed 50 times since June. They change every week, and I need to update that statement. I will say the folks who are doing our webpage are great about making changes, but I have to initiate them, and I have to think. And I will confess that I've been doing this work 40 years. We didn't even know the internet 40 years ago. And so my training, my background, this is not my first thought. And it needs to be. My first thought needs to be what's going out on our website, but that's way down the list of priorities. That's why I'm thinking we need someone on the staff who's constantly doing what Laura was talking about. How can I put this out? How can I communicate this? Somebody with that brain. It doesn't have to be a young person, but somebody with the brain that says constantly, I need to be figuring this out.
Right. Great. Maybe Gabe's the guy, like you said, maybe he's the guy.
I don't know. We haven't added it to his job description yet, but he's the youngest and the most likely. I mean, he's a wonderful guy, but he is by far the younger one.
Well, we'll look forward to speaking with him at 3:00. Does anybody else
notes with him?
Does anybody else have any more comments?
I'll just make a couple of comments. This is Chris Ramsey. And one is when you're saying like you just don't think to tell them to make the updates to the website, I totally get that. So what I've had to do is like just change my mindset. So think, okay, what would I've normally done? How would I normally have communicated these things in the past? I would have done it through my weekly bulletin or through my weekly announcements or things that are not happening in person or because of the situation of COVID, what have you. So maybe changing the mindset of, okay, so on Mondays, I make a note. This is what I would have put in the bulletin. This is what I would have done here. So let the website folks know, hey, here are my thoughts. Here's what needs to be addressed this week. And then let them do their thing, whatever that is, of putting that on there, of how that needs to be done. And then another thought that I had early on was I had no idea what kind of what your church stood for or what your brand was until I heard this no walls. How is it y'all word that?
Church without walls.
Church with no
Church
walls.
without walls, yes. I mean, that's just like, oh my gosh, that's crazy what you could do with that. I mean, that's just awesome. And people want authenticity, especially young people. So, even if anything you can do that's just authentic, even if you show the bloopers of something, you try to do an interview with a member, like Member Monday, and you do a really cool interview with someone, there's bloopers, and you keep that in there. And for people to laugh, what I'm saying, just to see the realness. And I mean, I follow this one lady on Instagram that's a total straight lace, already has tens of thousands of followers and what have you. And she does it every Monday morning, or I'm sorry, every morning. Let's say what we're grateful for, because gratefulness brings happiness. Well, she happened to be in her bedroom and there was something interesting on the nightstand. And she didn't know it. And you know what? Once she started getting bombarded with messages, she just rolled with it and went, it's what it is. And she gained tons more followers. So it's just, it's what it is, it's life.
Yeah.
That's hysterical. And may that never happen to me. Please God.
Just don't do any presentations in your bedroom.
Yeah. Good idea. Good idea.
Good point. So authenticity, wow, really strong.
I love the idea of on your weekly calendar, because I'm a calendar kind of guy. On my weekly calendar is send comments to Kelly about what needs to change on the website this week.
Exactly. It's just a mindset shift for us. It's like, oh Lordy, I don't know how to do this social media stuff, but what do I know how to do? Well, I know this. So, okay, I shift it to this.
Great. That's a great comment. Maybe at the 3:00 we can talk about how to get the word out in a world that we can't do door to door anymore. We have an evangelism committee on the deacon board that we're really at a loss what to do. We've talked about food trucks, but mailers don't work. Nothing that door to door doesn't work. Nothing that used to work works. So what does work? And
So
maybe that's a 3:00 conversation.
yeah, and I'm with Story Point Senior Living there in Middletown, and I know it's working for us. I've been in this position for a year, and I was a new person in the playground, if you want to say. So I'm not part of like the interworkings in the group. I've become that through my year of developing relationships, but it's through partnerships. And there is something very strong about partnerships. And when I go out and do a giving with someone and we go deliver sunshine bags to seniors, and then I'm able to put that on our social media site, and then I tag her, and then everyone that she knows is commenting and sharing it, and the people I know is commenting and sharing it. It's really interesting. So when I have done that, our person that's in charge of social media at our home office in Michigan, she called me last week. She said, do you realize our engagement went up such and such and such and such, and our likes went up such and such and such and such on whatever day? And she said, do you know why? I said, yes. I mean, it was the post I made. And it wasn't just because it was me. It was just the post I made. It was being real. It was tagging someone else. And then I make sure every time I post, because I have access to that Facebook page, so whoever has access to that Facebook page has the ability to invite their friends to like that page. And that's an easy thing. So every time I go in there, I invite 100 people that are my personal Facebook friends to like that. Now I got 40 some new followers to our Story Point page this past week just from doing that.
Great.
Wow.
Jim, I've got instructions for that type of stuff that I typed up for our employees that I'd be happy to send you if you want.
Would you? That would be amazing, Whitney. Thank you.
I'll take it too, Whitney, because I'm flying off the seat of my pants.
What's your, will you put your email in the comments for me,
I will.
Chris?
Yes.
And the other thing we might talk about at 3:00, Jim, is we were talking about this morning, is the concept of influencers. I don't know if there are influencers in the church arena.
Absolutely.
There are. Okay, maybe we can talk about those some more as
Yeah.
well.
Absolutely.
Well, it's a little bit over one. Go ahead. Sorry, somebody else going to say something, because we're going to get off the call here. No, the group of people, I mean, you all are just wonderful with the way you share, and thank you so much for your participation. And hope you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday and the rest of your week. And we look forward to next month, and we'll look forward to our 3:00 meeting today as well. Thank you very
all.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.